The year was 1971. The air was thick with unrest, protests against the Vietnam War, civil rights marches, and a society teetering on the edge of change. But amid the chaos of the outside world, something darker, more insidious, was about to unfold in the basement of Jordan Hall at Stanford University in California. A study, an experiment designed to explore the boundaries of human behavior and authority, would soon spiral out of control, revealing a monstrous truth about the fragility of human morality. This is the story of the Stanford Prison Experiment, a tale of power, cruelty, and the rapid descent into madness. It began with an idea, a spark in the mind of Dr. Philip Zimbardo, a psychologist driven by a burning curiosity to understand how ordinary people could commit extraordinary acts of cruelty under the influence of authority. He had read the reports from the Holocaust, the accounts of atrocities committed not by monsters, but by men who insisted they were simply following orders. But how deep did that capacity for darkness go? How far could it be pushed? Zimbardo's experiment was designed to explore the psychological effects of perceived power. He set up a mock prison in the basement of the psychology department, a claustrophobic labyrinth of cells, bare and cold, with metal bars, small concrete rooms, and heavy, bolted doors. 24 young men, students from Stanford University, were recruited through a simple newspaper ad. They were promised $15 a day for a 2-week study. They were screened to ensure they were psychologically healthy, deemed to be normal. Then they were randomly assigned to one of 2 roles, prisoner or guard. On the morning of August 14, 1971, the prisoners were arrested without warning. Real police officers arrived at their homes, sirens blaring, lights flashing. They were handcuffed, searched, and taken to the local police station, where they were fingerprinted and booked before being blindfolded and driven to the makeshift prison at Stanford. They were stripped naked, sprayed with a delousing agent, and given smocks to wear with their new identities, a number printed across the chest. Their individuality was erased. They were no longer students, friends, or sons. They were simply prisoners. The guards, dressed in khaki uniforms and mirrored sunglasses, were given little instruction other than to maintain order in the prison. They were armed with whistles, billy clubs, and the authority to enforce rules. Zimbardo himself assumed the role of the prison superintendent, a distant overseer who watched from a hidden control room, cameras capturing every movement, every word, every glance. At first, there was a tense calm. The guards paced the narrow corridors, and the prisoners whispered among themselves, unsure of what to expect. But it didn't take long for the dynamics to shift. On the first day, the prisoners began to test the limits, refusing to comply with the guards' arbitrary commands. The guards, feeling their authority challenged, began to assert their power more forcefully. They barked orders, lined up the prisoners, and instituted push-ups as a form of punishment. It was all a game, until it wasn't. By the second day, the prisoners rebelled. They barricaded themselves in their cells, pulling the beds against the doors, taunting the guards from behind the metal bars. The guards, enraged and emboldened, responded with swift and brutal force. They blasted fire extinguishers into the cells, storming in, pulling the prisoners out, stripping them naked, and placing the ringleaders in solitary confinement. Dark, narrow closets where the heat and silence bore down like a weight on their chests. The rebellion was crushed, but it left something darker in its wake. A shift had occurred. A shift in the guards' demeanor. A transformation in their faces that Zimbardo would later call the mask of cruelty. The guards began to impose a strict regimen of humiliation. They forced the prisoners to perform degrading tasks, clean toilets with their bare hands, simulate sexual acts, and stand in line for hours on end, deprived of sleep and food. The guards' mirrored sunglasses, which hid their eyes, seemed to amplify their power, turning them into faceless figures of authority, agents of control. And as the guards became more sadistic, the prisoners began to break down. Within days, they were showing signs of severe emotional distress, crying, screaming, begging for release. One prisoner, number 8612, was the first to crack. He began to shout incoherently, thrashing against the cell walls, convinced he was trapped, unable to breathe. He pleaded with Zimbardo to let him go, But Zimbardo, now deep in his role as superintendent, hesitated, unsure whether it was a genuine plea or part of the experiment's unfolding drama. Eventually, he allowed number 8612 to leave. But the seed had been planted, the seeds of doubt, of fear, of a creeping, consuming sense of reality lost. The guards grew bolder, more inventive in their cruelty. They played psychological games, turning prisoners against each other, creating a privileged cell for those who complied, while punishing others. The line between experiment and reality blurred. The guards no longer referred to the prisoners by name, but by number. The prisoners, in turn, began to identify more with their assigned roles, becoming compliant, submissive, almost broken. A few of the guards, like John Wayne, the nickname given to a particularly zealous guard, embraced their roles with disturbing enthusiasm. John Wayne, with his broad grin and swaggering gait, seemed to revel in the torment, making his rounds with a billy club swinging at his side, his voice echoing with taunts and threats. His laughter filled the darkened halls at night, a sound that seemed to burrow into the prisoners' minds, unsettling, unrelenting. By day 5, the atmosphere was charged with a palpable dread. A new prisoner, number 416, arrived and immediately went on a hunger strike to protest the treatment. The guards retaliated by placing him in solitary confinement, where he endured hours of psychological torment. When he refused to eat, they tried to force-feed him, threatening further isolation. The other prisoners, initially sympathetic, turned against him, fearing more collective punishment. The tension reached a boiling point. Zimbardo watched, transfixed, from behind his control room glass, torn between the scientist's curiosity and the unfolding human tragedy. On the 6th day, Christina Maslock, a graduate student and Zimbardo's girlfriend, entered the prison to interview the participants. What she saw shocked her. Prisoners shuffling in a daze, eyes hollow, guards barking orders with sadistic glee, Zimbardo himself detached and cold, consumed by his role. She confronted him, her voice sharp with alarm. "What you're doing is wrong," she insisted. "These are human beings." Her words broke through the haze of the experiment, jolting Zimbardo back to reality. That night, he ended the experiment, 6 days instead of 14. 6 days that had plunged ordinary men into extraordinary darkness, a descent into cruelty and submission that left no one untouched. Zimbardo debriefed the participants, revealing the true nature of the study. There were tears, apologies, confusion. Some guards expressed regret, others lingering exhilaration. The prisoners were stunned, grappling with how quickly they had been reduced to numbers, to objects of control. The Stanford Prison Experiment was over, but the questions it raised remained. How could such darkness emerge so quickly? Was it the environment that corrupted, or was the capacity for cruelty always there, lying dormant, waiting for permission to surface? Zimbardo's findings would spark debate for decades, criticized as unethical, even monstrous, but also lauded as a chilling. As you listen to this story, imagine yourself in that basement, the heavy air pressing down, the sound of footsteps echoing off concrete walls. Think about the prisoner's eyes, lost and empty, the guards' voices, sharp with authority, the quiet hum of the cameras recording it all. And ask yourself, in their place, under those circumstances, what would you have done? For in the darkest corners of our psyche, the line between good and evil is thinner than we dare to believe, and the abyss it stares back,